When I was a little, 2-year-old, my father had this big giant stereo, and it was wooden, and I used to just sit there with my hands on the front of the stereo and gnaw on the wood while I would watch the record go around and listen to the music. And there's big giant teeth marks on it, and picking it up.
Yeah.
And how I owe a lot of my music career success to the ability to sight sing. We use the Zoltan Kodály method with the hand signals, do, re, mi, fa, so, and it's just amazing how, that really helped me in my career. And then a year later, at age 11, my father was called by the First Church of Christ Scientist at that time in Easton to, play church service, and he's like, I can't do it, but maybe my son could. And they're like, what? An 11-year-old little kid? An 11-year-old little boy?
All right, welcome everybody to The Sound. I'm Donna. For those of you who are new, this channel is designed around everything frequency, music, sound, vibration, encouraging others through other stories. So today, as my guest, I have my friend Gabe Toth with me. I can't even believe it. I'm reading his bio, and he has over 40 years of music industry experience in vocal coaching and sight reading pianist. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about his background. But I can't believe that I'm this old and he's this old anymore because I first met Gabe years ago as a choreographer. I was a choreographer in a high school musical, and he was part of those performances, those productions. And so here we are so many years later, and I'm telling you, Gabe, I welcome. I'm so excited to have you join us today. And I just want to tell you, I'm so proud of you. And I knew then, we all knew back then, how good you were going to do, really, and how far you were going to go. So this man is multi-talented and is teaching people all around the world. So, Gabe, thanks for doing this. I'm so
Well,
excited to talk to you.
thank you, Donna. Yeah, it was Donna who gave me a crash course in tap dancing for the for the musical. I was in the Boyfriend, I believe. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My whole life has been based around music and helping others. My father was also a music teacher, so it's been in the family. And when I was a little, 2-year-old, my father had this big giant stereo, and it was wooden, and I used to just sit there with my hands on the front of the stereo and gnaw on the wood while I would watch the record go around and listen to the music. And there's big giant teeth marks on it, and
Yeah.
however, we knew that I had an interest in music, and that's the only time, I was a rowdy little boy, and the only time I would calm down and focus is when music was playing, or somebody was playing music, or my father was playing the organ.
Mhm.
So,
Isn't that
yeah.
isn't that amazing? And that's why, we're in future broadcasts, we're going to get more into that, the whole idea of music and sound and vibrations
hmm
being healing, bringing healing to people. And, that's a perfect example of how music can be used for the good. And then it also, of course, can be used for not so good. So tell us what, I mean, we see all the instruments and, the guitars you have hanging in the background, and
Uh,
tell us everything. What all do you play
well, I mean,
and
gee,
teach?
it's hard to start, but yeah, I'm gonna just start from the beginning because when I went to school, we were in kindergarten, and at that time, there was a piano in the classroom, and part of the kindergarten teacher's curriculum was to gather the children around and sing songs, and again, they even noticed it in the school. I wasn't interested in anything until that music started playing. If they were talking about ABC or 1, 2, 3, I was out in outer space, probably singing songs in my head. So, but yeah, and then I ended up singing. When I was 7 years old, they asked me to sing Yankee Doodle Dandy, and I remember, they had me in this, outfit, and I wouldn't start singing. The pianist just started playing, and I didn't start singing yet. So it was a little rough start. And then I sung in my aunt's church the same year. I sang Silent Night. I was 7. The following year, there was a boys choir in Pennsylvania, and the director would go from schools to schools, trying to recruit people for the Pennsylvania Boys Choir, and we tried to get me signed up in when I was 8 years old, and of course I tried out, and it was the he's too young thing and not really developed enough yet, so we'll wait another year. So we waited another year, and then I ended up joining the boys choir. So at the same time, having a father that's a music teacher, and I'd actually go to the lessons, his lessons with him. Sometimes I'd sit with him in the student's house, and then if they were people who were like, oh well, can you not bring your son because the student feels intimidated or scared, and then I'd sit in the car and sleep or something. And but that's when I would spend time with Dad, and basically, I joined the boys choir, and I spent a lot of, when I was 9 years old, I was learning do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and and all these different kinds of songs, and it just came that I started playing the accompaniments on the organs that my father had. He has 2 Hammond organs. I still have them downstairs, 1950s models. Anybody who wants a Hammond organ, I'm trying to sell them, but I need to move them out. They're pretty big. But I would play these accompaniments just by watching the director's hands and learning these do, re, mi's, and all of a sudden, just, I don't know, reading music just kind of came. I didn't have the weekly lesson, the traditional weekly lesson, and what happened was I ended up, my grandmother bought me a piano also, so I could play the stuff on a piano. And then I started looking at piano books and actually teaching myself and picking it up. And I owe a lot of my music career success to the ability to sight sing. We used the Zoltan Kodály method with the hand signals, do, re, mi, fa, so. And it's just amazing how, that really helped me in my career. And
can I ask you, did you,
so, yes.
When you were young, and you were going with your father and you were playing, did you ever feel like, I know I can do more, I already know this, or were you, or you were just,
all the time, all
yeah.
of the time, yeah. And it's pretty funny because we would go to at that time, we didn't have music notes, today, where you can go on a website and buy a piece of music and be able to download it in 8 different keys in about 2 minutes. Back then we would take a trip on Saturdays to Young's Music Store in Allentown and sit there for hours and page through, sheet music. And I was 9, 10 years old, and we would take a piece of music out, and I would start singing the piece of music without a piano nearby or anything. And the people that ran the music store were like, how does he know that? That was just published. We just got that 2 days ago. And my father said, well, he's special, kind of, But anyway, through the years let me fast forward a little bit, because it could get to be a long story, so I don't want to keep it too long. So, but yeah, the love for the music was, always there, and and then of course I just started learning and getting better and better, and 10 years old, I just had my first recital. So there I was, 9 years old, just learning to play, stuff by ear on the organ that my choir director was playing. And a year later, I'm reading music. It just kind of fell in my lap. And then a year later, at age 11, my father was called by the First Church of Christ Scientist at that time in Easton to, play church service. And he's like, I can't do it, but maybe my son could. And they're like, what? An 11-year-old little kid? An 11-year-old little boy? And they're like, well, we can't find anybody else. Let's give them a shot, So
Wow.
then I went and played, and then I ended up being a soloist, and they have soloists in their church, a required soloist, and they follow an order. Then I learned about that religion at a very young age, and so I was singing and playing the church organ at age 11. That's why I look like I'm 28 now and say 40 years experience, because I guess when you get that first paycheck, you're actually considered a professional, and I
Yeah.
was 11 years old, and
Wow.
also that year I toured Japan and sang, with the choir, and I recorded as a soloist at Mozart's Exultate Jubilate, which I just received a recording of actually at age 50 now, and
Mhm.
one of my brothers from the choir, who I teach his daughter piano and voice, he said, look, I got a recordings of us in Osaka Symphony Hall. And I listened to the recording that I sung, and I'm like, wow. And then hearing the applause afterwards, I'm like, whoa, geez, that's, and then it
Yeah,
brought
hit you
back
different, right?
memories.
So out of all the places
Uh,
that because you've been to a lot of places, you from
oh
churches
my
to your bio
goodness.
to Broadway touring companies, colleges, cruise
Yeah,
ships, all these
yeah,
places.
everywhere.
Do you have a certain which one's your favorite? Is there a favorite or did you just
My favorite places, yeah, I do actually. I mean, I spent a lot of time when I was on the cruise ships for Princess Cruise Lines. I spent a lot of time in South America and the Caribbean, and I'd have to say, like Barbados, Costa Rica. I really like Costa Rica. Um, it's
so
like.
cruise ships were so doing cruise ships was your favorite or
Well, not really. I mean, yeah,
anything?
that was
Yeah.
that was a little bit later. I mean, that's basically, well, again, let me fast forward. So I'm
Mhm.
in school now, and I'm in the choir. My voice changes. Leave the choir at age 12, age 13. My voice starts to change. So in eighth grade, I just ended up accompanying the choir that year, and I didn't even sing during my voice changing. So I accompanied I helped the director and played piano for the chorus, and that's when I started getting into the shows, and
Mhm.
then I started getting into playing guitar, and I bought a bass. That's the year the Monkees came back with the 20th anniversary
Yeah.
tour, and they
Yeah.
were on Nickelodeon and all this, and
Mhm.
I was 13, and the show came on, and I'm like, wow, this looks pretty fun. I want to do that. So I became a fan of them, and actually ended up back playing in their backing band, for 30th anniversary years later at the end of the
Wow.
tour.
That's
Yeah, it's a
nice.
big story there, but like I said, this could take forever, but I'm just trying to plow through all the major parts. So yeah, and then I got into the acting and the doing the
Mhm.
shows, and actually, yeah, I was, what was it? Yeah, eighth grade, I played in the pit orchestra for what was the musical that year? Sunrise, Sunset, Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
And then I'm like, geez, the musicians do not get any credit. Next year, I'm going up on the stage. It's all about the actors in the stage. And so the following year, we did Babes in Arms, and I was actually cast as a dancer. And I was like doing the cane and the tip that hat. And
Mhm.
again, I was no dancer by any means. However, I always had a crash course in,
Mhm.
you know, in jazz box dancing or, tap. And well, gee, I'm not a tap dancer, but gee,
Yeah,
we
but you
have to
did it.
show it. We
You
have to show it to them for this show and for
did
this
it.
song. And I loved it. I mean, that was
Yeah.
and then I ended up, playing Rolf in The Sound of Music in 10th grade. And then I had the leads in, not the greatest musicals in the world, but The Boyfriend and then
Yeah.
The Pajama Game in 12th grade.
Yeah.
Some great music from those shows. And, you have the Hey There and,
Mhm.
Room in Bloomsbury. And there's a couple
Oh
popular
gosh, now I'm having flashbacks here.
Yeah, right, right. Okay.
So
It,
music
but
has been your life. Like
yeah,
when you
yeah,
see
it's
that, little hashtag
mhm,
music is life, it's been your life. I want to ask you something. Was
right.
there ever a time in your life, because now you're teaching and you can tell us a little bit about that too, but and all
Mhm,
over the, online all over the world. Was there ever
yeah.
a time in your life when you were tired of it, tired of performing, tired of making music, tired of teaching, or no?
Not really in the sense of I'm tired of it, I don't want to do it, but it would be always okay. I'm tired of the same routine.
Okay.
I want to change it. Like
Mhm.
really, I mean, people would joke with me and I'd be like, "Oh man, I've got to go to Aruba." And they're like, "Oh, gee, my heart's, bleeds for you. You're complaining about Aruba." And I'm like, "Well, Aruba's just like anything else that becomes too much. The cruise ship became too much when I worked on there and it's like living in Nazareth for 48 years. It's like, geez, it's time for a change or
Okay.
something. And
So you evolve. I mean, we
exactly.
evolve. And I even look at my own life, everything like as a dancer, as a dance teacher, choreographer, it evolved into where I am now, which is really helping people to heal through movement and dance and theater.
Yes.
And that's I think how we keep we keep the enthusiasm, the excitement, if we can follow
Exactly.
where our hearts are going, then we'll be okay. And we won't be like, there are people that kind of like you said, every day is like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and they're really not happy with it, no matter how talented they are, no matter how wealthy they may get from it, they're not happy about it. But if you allow yourself, you sit with yourself, you see evolution taking place in your gifts, then I always think of it as a river, we're
Mhm.
floating in that flowing with the river,
Definitely.
you know.
Definitely. Yeah. And,
So
and and I'll elaborate a bit more on that when I get to the teaching thing because
mhm.
now we're in high school, and then of course I didn't go to college right away, and I was like I had a little chip on my shoulder then. It's like, well, gee, I'm not going to go to college because I'm doing the same gigs. And I had a church. Each church congregation got bigger. So by the time I graduated high school, I was a church organist for St. John's Lutheran Church in Easton, a pretty big church. I mean, I was salaried by this time, and um, so I had a choir at 15, 17 years old, teaching people to sing that were my grandparents' age, and that was always a fun thing. And I didn't go to college right away, and I was working at Dorney Park. In the first year, I was cast as a singer dancer in the Boot Scootin' Country Band, and that's the year. Sandusky, Ohio, Cedar Point took over, and so I did 6 shows a day, 6 days a week at Dorney Park, and I was working with, the people I was working with. They were all in college, and the guitar player, he was kind of like, well, you should really go to college for music because you're going to be behind all of us. I'm like, behind all of you? I'm playing the same job. Actually, I'm the main musician. But anyway, I ended up deciding, well, gee, I should maybe just go and get the, piece of paper and all that. So I'm like, well, of course, whenever I did something, it had to be big and grandiose. But anyway, that's how I was at the time. I kind of grew out of that stuff, so it's like, well, I have to go to the best school in the world. So what is that? What's known as that? Oh, Berklee College of Music in Boston. Okay, so I ended up going up there and getting a 4-year degree in 2.5, because they give you an entrance exam and theory, ear training, all these different things, and then a lot of the beginners courses like Introduction to Music Technology and conducting and this. I passed out of a lot of those, and you had tests. Like, they didn't make you take the course if you already knew it. You could take a test, pass out of it, and they gave you the credit for it, which was great, because the tuition went from $10,000 to $30,000 the semester after I graduated. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so and then I just started, and then actually the funny thing is, I was a vocal/piano major, and I came back home and I ended up teaching guitar at a local guitar store, and everybody at that time wanted to learn Nirvana's Unplugged. That was the big thing. This was like 1996, 97, and so basically that's when I'm teaching, and then I started working on the cruise ships and touring and all these other things, and basically taking what I could get. And one of the biggest things was, one of my favorite parts was when I started getting, I wanted to be a rock star, of course, but I ended up doing a lot of Broadway and a lot of show stuff because of my ability to sight read piano scores. Okay. So the first big breakthrough was for Matt Davenport Productions, when they said, oh, our music director's leaving because he can't get along with any of the the cast members, and he doesn't like living on the tour bus. And I'm like, wow, I love that stuff, So they sent me a score that was written by their company, not a previously written musical, and they said, well, can you learn this? So there I am reading it on the plane on the way to Nashville, and I practiced it 2 times with the guys in the the band, and then we ended up flying to Delray Beach, Florida, and I haven't even met the cast members yet. We were an on-stage band, and it was 5 minutes before the show started, in front of about 500 people, behind a closed curtain, and where I met the cast members right before the show, and the show got a 5-star rating in the newspapers that night. So,
awesome.
And then all of a sudden word spread, and that's where it's like, oh, we got to get them on the cruise ships and this and that. And then I started here as a pianist, and then a coach and all of that. So, but those things I did.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, so now, how did you get into the teaching then? I mean,
that's where I'm going now. Yeah, that's where I'm going now. And so we're going to go fast forward to the around the pandemic. I was being asked. I didn't think about it, but I was asked by local places, could you help us out and teach online? Well, online? Ooh, what? This is some Back to the Future stuff and all that, and Marty McFly talking to whoever on the but yeah, I'm like, okay, well, I'll try that, but I found out a lot of those third party companies, they were kind of using their teachers, and and then I'm decided, well, gee, I'm going to try this myself. So I put it on Facebook, I put a website together, and I put it out there, and I didn't get the 40 clients the next day like I thought I was going to. It just didn't work that way.
Yeah, I know.
But it took a while. But the thing is, this whole teaching online has just been an incredible, this is my favorite. It's unbelievable. I have students in London, Singapore, Dubai, Los Angeles, Nashville, Houston, and I watch, and at first I was kind of, and then there were marketers that were trying to help me, saying, oh, you have to have one niche. You have to have one audience. I'm like, well, my niche is vocals and piano and guitar. No, no, it doesn't work that way. It has to be one specific.
Yeah.
Well, my audience is everybody. I'm like,
Mhm.
doesn't work that way. I'm like, well, I'm glad I didn't listen because, I kind of trialed and errored it, over the last 4 years, mostly error, and learning. But it's become a very awesome experience, even spiritually too, and
Mhm.
especially healing with some hurdles that I ran into some hurdles that were I started drinking a bit too much, and I'm going on 7 years sober now, which
Yeah,
and
congratulations.
I don't miss it at all anymore. It's like each day I just get further and further
Well,
away.
and I just, not to interrupt you, but it's, your heart, you're doing what your heart has wanted to do, and you're fulfilled by doing that.
Yeah.
And so that's quite an encouragement. If you find, and the me, I have to say this, I've done some teaching online as well, and have taught students from around the world, and it's so cool. It's amazing. It's just so amazing. Um, but it is just for me to see the light bulb go on in their head when they realize
Right.
something, they discover something. I like to teach, like, leading them to discovering things on their own. It's like so fulfilling. And yeah, I mean, I know your schedule is packed, but
Yeah,
with
it's scattered. However, one of the major things I want to mention is, when I first started teaching online, I had all these ideas, and I always had an idea to start a vocal course. And 28 years ago, it was, it's going to be a hardbound college textbook, because that's what we knew back then. But all of a sudden now it's like, oh my gosh, digital YouTube videos, apps, and but I had all these ideas just scattered in the universe. But by teaching online, it's like everything started falling into kind of a routine that I didn't really plan. And it just kind of just fell into place where all those ideas are now, I can put a course together, and I'm going to do
Mhm.
that because I want to share my knowledge with, and it is different than most of the others that are out there because that was my main view. It's like, how can I take the rocket science out of singing so that everybody can do it? Because everyone's always crazy about singing, scared to do it, afraid of not getting the high notes. Everyone's so judgmental about each other. Oh, you shouldn't be singing, keep your day job, and all that
Yeah,
stuff. It's like, well, how can I prove to everybody that they can sing?
everybody,
And
and
then,
that's part of
yeah.
what we're doing with Sound Media Productions. Everybody has a song, and I
Oh,
say that
yeah.
in quotes. You have a song to make in this earth. Even
Yeah.
our hearts are releasing, our cells sing. It doesn't mean you have to actually vocally sing, but whatever it is in your heart to do, you were placed here for a reason and a mission, and you need
Right.
to release your sound no matter what others say, think of you. You have to shut those voices off. You just gotta shut them out. And yeah, everybody does, and I'm excited to hear about this course. Then when you have it done, we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah,
But
and just one more thing. The biggest thing for me is, and the reason why I love it so much and it's priceless, is seeing the looks on my students' faces when they accomplish something, and get better. It's
mhm,
like, I didn't know I could do that. I'm like, see, it's like, don't be afraid to make a mistake. Here's the place. Actually, the goal you're trying to reach is going to probably most likely come through that mistake. Don't try to not make the mistakes. Make the mistakes so we can work through them,
yeah,
and then the mistakes become less and less. See, it's a different approach than
yeah,
the perfectionist, oh, don't make the mistakes at all. And when we focus on that, it becomes a chore and a demand. I like my students to feel that when they come to their classes and it's a break. It's something for them that they want to do, that they love, a break from the demanding things in life like
yeah.
job, family. It's like, okay, well, this is a time this is an hour that you can take, lock yourself in a room with your computer and your coach, make all the mistakes you want, and have a little laughs. We laugh a lot in my courses, but we make progress weekly, and it's great watching the progress each week, and each client being happy, and it's like, wow, it's amazing that it's like, wow, a year later I can sing 4 notes higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know,
it is a spiritual thing too, as well.
Mhm.
I mean, it
Oh yeah.
is like when when you see that in your students, and it's like an awakening for them. It touches them deeply within. And yeah, there's
Definitely.
so much we can say about that, really. So how tell us, how young do you take students, and how is there an age limit or?
Well, there's no limit. I mean, I have a 72-year-old now. The oldest I've taken, I believe, maybe late 70s, and I mean, there's no oldest age. Youngest, I usually have to evaluate, and see where they're at. But I'd have to say youngest that I prefer from what I've had. I'd say 8 to 9 ish. Maybe a 7-year-old now and then, and I mean, I've had 4 and 5-year-olds, but sometimes, again, I have to evaluate the child and see how their attention span is.
Right, right.
It's like, is it, every little move I make, are they gonna end up just losing their concentration, or, you know?
During the pandemic, I've taught for a company online dance preschool. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do.
Oh, I bet.
Oh gosh. And I remember one class, and these students were not preschoolers. They were, and you could see each one in their house. Well, I had a brother and a sister, and they were up on top of their tables in their room, up on top of the couch. It was
Mm-hmm.
crazy. So to master, for me to teach, I know there are lots of people who teach dance online, and I've had some recently, have had some requests to do some of that online. I haven't done it yet, but going back to that again, because it's really difficult. So I'm sure, by now you have it mastered, or how to do this thing, and so it just flows for you. What would you what advice would you give, yeah, anybody really of any age? And I guess maybe it does kind of depend, but anybody who wants to do something more with their music, with their singing, if they want to be, maybe go into the professional area, or want to do something on their own, or teaching, what kind of advice would you give them now that you've been through so many things?
Okay. All right. First of all, never listen to the criticisms of your spouse. And actually, that's a big one. It's funny. It's
Here's
a
a big
joke,
one.
but there's truth. There's truth to that. And yeah, and basically, it's like anything that's different, and out of the ordinary and new, out of your comfort zone. It's gonna be a risk, and it's basically, yeah, you have to just, I mean, I have tons of students well, people too, that are like, oh gee, it's on my bucket list to learn, but they just keep putting it
Yeah.
off and putting it off. I'm like, hey, you gonna start soon or whatever? And
Really?
but it's like, it's as simple as just, stop procrastinating and just do it. Just do it. I like that Nike commercial,
Mhm, me too.
with the t-shirts, and it's like, really what it comes down to is, like, you just have to do it. You can't let, a lot of people, let their, oh gee, can I do it? No, I can't do it. And the negative head stuff, and
Mhm.
that's why we end up procrastinating and not doing it, or listening to, I've had a, person that says, oh, my wife says I can't sing, and will I be? And I said, well, don't listen to your wife, okay? So, as
And
when
I
it comes to that anyway.
And I
So,
would, yeah, I would think that the first thing they would do would be start taking lessons with you, like that could
right,
be a real
right,
great
yeah.
starting point. And then
Yeah.
move on, and because you've had so much background and experience, you can kind
Mhm.
of guide them as to
And
what the next step would be.
my yeah, and my point is to just make it as, as productive, but yet at the same time as enjoyable as possible. It shouldn't be like fingernails on a chalkboard. It shouldn't be like Monday morning. It's like, oh no, I got to go to my music course, or and which it
Yeah.
has been many times. I've seen that, and
Mm.
it's like now I have a little boy that I teach vocals to. I have him today, and it's like, his mother's like, oh, he loves you as a teacher, and I'm like, well, that's great because it shows that he enjoys what he's doing and he's
Yeah.
happy, and it's like he's excited every week to he asks, when's my voice lesson, and
And
again, that's the stuff that I see as a coach and a teacher that just doesn't have a price tag on, you know
yeah, not
seeing
at all.
that influence, and knowing that it's like, wow, all of the years that I've put in, it's like actually paying off by seeing the happiness of other people when they are able to do something that they thought they could never do.
Yeah. And as you see, like in our case, as you see your students grow and mature and go, I've had students who've gone on to have their own studios, their own, my own daughters are teaching and involved in different areas, and to
Mhm.
see them and say, wow, I had a little part of that was great,
Right. Exactly.
and just seeing you, how far you have grown, and how far you've come, and it's very satisfying to know that what you did, the time and effort, because it does take time and effort, and put your heart into it. It really does pay off, and it's good to see the outcome. Not everybody, but a lot of it, and even for those who have not gone on to, as they matured and grew up, they didn't continue to dance, were my students, but they always had something to say that was like, wow, those were the best memories I had, or we were like a family back then. And so teachers really are, they just have such a great influence. And the music industry has changed so much, so much. And we're moving, this whole AI thing. I had this discussion with my daughter the other day, and we were just talking about the AI and where it's going. And I said, I don't know though, will it ever replace the actual going to a performance and being there live? I don't
Mhm.
think that could ever replace that.
Yeah.
To see what the human body is capable of doing,
Hmm.
as far as the arts go, or in any other area. You
Hmm.
just can't, there's no computer that can ever replace these bodies.
Right.
So,
I agree.
yeah, and I think that, having someone like you, if there's a teacher, a coach, years ago I did artist management and event productions back then. And
Hmm.
having someone as a sort of, I guess, gatekeeper, or even especially a parent, but a gatekeeper for those who are going in the professional direction, to really guide and lead them into safe areas, safe people, because we see what's happening now. A lot of stuff is being exposed, um, and which is good. But to be able to really lead and guide our students into the right areas so that they are safe in doing what they really love to do. So
Hmm.
anyway, so it's been such a pleasure having you. Are there any closing words, anything else that you want to share? I'm going to be linking Gabe's information below. How can we reach you? How can people reach you to take lessons?
Oh, well, there's many ways. I mean, I'm on Google. It's Gabe Toth Music Instruction. My actual website is www.gabetothmusacinstruction.com. It's music spelled Muzak.
Mhm.
Um,
We'll link it all below.
yeah, and of course my phone number, which is on the website, and
Facebook.
I'm all over the internet. Yelp,
Good, good.
Google. I Googled my name last night just to see my review on Google, and it's like, gee, on Yelp and all this other stuff and everything else came out, school, and all the different websites
Yeah.
that I work
Well,
with. And
well, I'll link all that stuff below so people can get in touch with you. Um,
sure,
Gabe, thank you. You are making a
sure.
sound.
Thank you, Donna.
You are making a sound. You are encouraging people. You're not only teaching them, methodology or you don't just have the knowledge, but you're showing them how to truly enjoy music and to find that sound that is within them. And I'm just thank you for that because that is so important to me. That's like the most important thing. So I
Sure.
appreciate you.
Well,
Anything else
thank
you
you,
want to
Donna.
add?
Not really. I
Well, we'll
mean,
have to catch up with
well,
you.
thank you for asking me to be on. So
Oh, sure. We'll have to
I
catch up with you
appreciate
again.
it. So yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. We need to, have those things so that we can be pushed up in the algorithm. We can show more people
Mhm.
all the people that are making the sound in this world for good. So thank you
That's right.
again. And we'll see you on the sound. Ciao.